All right, we are live, senor. How you
Yes,
doing,
we
Joe?
are. I'm doing pretty good. How about you, Jorge?
All right, all right. I just want to start off by thanking those of you guys that are joining. I know people start drifting in. Wi-Fi, thank you for being here. Outside, inside aquatics, Kyle, thanks for dropping in. Um, I know this is a little bit later than I usually go, um, especially for the East Coast people or the Central and East Coast people. Uh, they're not used to me going this late, but the thing is adapting and overcoming. So that's what we're doing today. One of the real reasons, though, why we're going this late is because for those of you that might not be aware of the fact that Joe is the owner of the Chlorophyll Corner. For those of you guys that have been watching my videos, it's the store that I did the tour of down there in Tempe. It's the one that had it just was full of plants and livestock and reptiles. I mean, he had a little bit of everything. As a matter of fact, I was joking. I was really asking Joe if he was still at the store because I'm looking at the image behind him, and I thought it was I was looking at the store, but I could see that he brings the store. He took his home to the store.
This is just a bedroom. You have to see the living room, man. It's insane.
Well, if it's anything like your store, I can imagine it's pretty impactful. Um, but you know, I'm first of all, thank you very much, Joe, for accepting to be on here with me tonight.
Oh,
I've
you're
been
welcome.
really looking forward to this because I really do. I mean, I'm serious. I think you have a very unique and interesting store, unlike any other fish store I've ever been to, which I'm pretty sure you're aware of that. I mean, there's not too many stores that are set up the way yours is.
Yeah, I
Um,
get I get that a lot. I hear it actually from customers. Sometimes it's just they open up the door, they come in, and like, oh my god, which
yeah,
is
it's like
which is pretty
it's
cool. It's flattering actually.
yeah, it's like walking. You're used to walking out into nature. This one, you're walking into nature because it's like it's indoors, but all the way you've got all your plants set up, and maybe we'll get into why that is a little bit right now. I don't want to kind of spill the beans on that, but it's just like I said. You look at it outside looking in, you have no idea what to expect. It looks like any other conventional fish store, but as soon as you open the doors, it's like wow, it's right in your face. It's like I said, it's a very unique experience. I don't think I've ever visited a store that was quite like that. And I'm still waiting for a couple of the pictures to download from the day that I went to the tour. And once those upload, I'll go ahead and share some of those and we can kind of talk about that a little bit. But why don't you give us a little bit of background about yourself, Joe? So for those of you that haven't had the great fortune of meeting you like I have.
Well, it's not that big of a fortune. I mean, I'm just a regular Joe, but just so that anybody, so you guys can hear a little bit about who I am. I'm actually a architect by trade,
Mm,
and in 2020, we had a lot of family loss. I lost my first wife. I lost my mother. I lost my foreman of 11 years as well, and COVID almost took me out in December of 2020 as well. And prior to all this, or even prior to me being an architect, I already had been in the hobby, not just as a hobbyist, but also as a vendor. I've done. I know a lot of the guys in Europe, that do aquascaping. Balbi Vaquero from Spain, Enrico Fortuna, Jules Julian, Sasha Hoyer. I mean, it's just a lot of the guys, that I got to meet because I did some aquascaping as well with them. And I did stuff as well in Asia. I did compete doing aquascaping. That was in my younger years. And then, later on, I got into importing. I used to import and export reptiles from all over the world, insects, um, and then amphibians as well. And then way before that, I started working at 14 at a tropical fish store, Lennox Tropical in Glendale, California. And that's how I initiated myself in the hobby more seriously.
okay.
Um, When I was 5 years old, I got my first 2.5 gallon aquarium with three carnival goldfish, and those things got enormous. They overgrew the tank. And when my dad saw that I had, a knack for keeping the fish alive, he went and bought me a 10-gallon aquarium. And for me, that was like the biggest thing ever. So, once he saw that I was able to maintain, tropical fish and the whole deal, then he started investing in the hobby, as he said. And he got me
Okay.
my first 55-gallon aquarium, and I had angelfish. Back then when you can get Japanese blushings, you can get, Bulgarian seal points, German red devils, you could just go into a store and get them. I mean, a lot of that stuff now has become really rare, unfortunately. And I started breeding them. I used to, breed some of the Heckle discus as well too.
Okay.
I had, the Philotephe Browns. Started messing with Altums as well too. Those were never successful for me when I was younger. But the rest of the stuff was. So, I got to breed a lot of the stuff and I would sell to the local pet stores.
So
And
we're sorry.
mhm,
Go ahead.
go
No,
ahead.
no. No, I was going to ask you. So were Altums a little bit easier to come by before than they are now? Because I know now they're a little bit more scarce and a little bit harder to come by.
They used to be a lot easier to get in because everything was imported, and everything was imported literally, pennies to the dollar. Uh, Nowadays, you get yourself a, really good quality, captive born, mature or a sub-adult Altum, you're going to pay 150, $250 for that fish. Back then, of course, $50 was a lot of money, but that's what you would pay, for a freshly imported animal, coming in. Of course, you would have to treat it, make sure you, gave it the proper care, make sure you had it in boiling water because, in acid water, basically, because when they would come in, the pH in the bags was like 5.0. I mean, it was insane. Same thing with the discus. So it
Okay.
was all a process. It was all a learning curve. And then, of course, you know, um, I had the opportunity later on in life of meeting Bern Deegan, which was pretty cool, and of course Jeff Motley. The pioneers. I never got to meet Axelrod,
Okay.
but it's just I still have a ton of their books because I call them the tomes. It's like if I ever have a question, sometimes it may be something simple, but
Mhm.
it's a lot better if I go to a hardcover book than if I go into the internet and get 50 million different answers. That really don't coincide, or it's going to take 50 different answers for me to find the one right answer. So, sticking to the books to me is still the right way of learning, fish keeping. I mean, there's a lot of advancements that's happened in the industry, all these years to now, which is fantastic. Technology has gotten so advanced to it's where it's making it a lot easier. Filtration, heating, lighting, everything is a lot better now. But, definitely going back to the old school way or to the core of what fish keeping used to be, I think it's still very fundamental for people who are getting into the hobby nowadays.
Yeah, it's just it was before the internet. That was the only thing. Either you went to a library to go look at books, or you bought them. I mean, there were more. I remember uh, but where I grew up, you had like a true value hardware store that had a pet section, and they had fish tanks there, and they always had a little section of your indispensable books, like your very basic books and stuff like that. So that's the way you really learned is you either knew somebody that had been keeping fish for a while or you read it, and that's how you learned a lot of the behaviors and how the fish like to be kept and stuff like that. I remember my very first book was like the complete guide to cichlids or South American cichlids or something like that. And I
That was
remember,
a that was a TFH publication because it was mostly TFH that would produce those books.
yeah, and I remember it because it had on the cover a convict,
Hmm.
and it had a bunch of fry all around the head, and I always remember that cover because that was actually the very first fish I ever kept were some convicts. So that was the only reason why I gravitated to that book because I saw the fish that was on there and I said that looks exactly like mine, and read it, and that's probably one of the few books that I've ever read book cover to cover.
Yeah.
And it wasn't very thick either. It was a pretty thin book. A lot of pictures in very short paragraphs, but you had enough information in there to to keep you having success. within the hobby.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I still remember, back when computers were barely coming up. My dad couldn't afford buying me a computer, and he bought me the World Book Encyclopedia. And
Hmm.
the World Book Encyclopedia actually had a little section on aquariums, and it would show kind of like a little diagram of how to, you had your under gravel filter and, your bubbler, your rudimentary heater and stuff of the sort. But, you explain how you could set up a freshwater tank, which I thought was really cool. So, all those things and all those little, tidbits of information just really made the difference. By the time I was in my early 20s, that's when I was taking things a lot more serious in the sense that, I started delving more into true aquascaping. And, I started, reading some of the books by, the late, great Takashi Amano. And that's really what just, hit me, like a brick wall, literally. It's like, oh my God, I can take a scene of nature and recreate it in a cube, just a vessel of water. And that was just for me, hook, line, and sinker. And
Oh,
I actually have volume one and volume two that he actually signed for me. I got to meet him twice. I had the honor of meeting him. Um, and then, from there, it was just a matter of me being creative with things. Um, the one, gift that I feel that I have is I can take a look at a tank, an empty vessel, and in my head, I know what it's going to look like already. And it drives my wife insane sometimes because she goes, "Well, how did you do that?" And I go, "Well, it's already here." But it's just, for me, it's just kind of like, I guess you can call it muscle memory from being an architect, just looking at things, differently. But, it's just when you look at things, there's a lot of similarities. Photography as well, too. You take the rule of thirds, you look at things, in a different perspective. You look at, elements with an uneven number instead of an even number so that you can recreate something that you would see in nature. So, all those little things, have helped out and actually was the motivating part for me to open up the store because, well, in the beginning in late 2020, there was a store in Tucson, Arizona, which I don't know if you heard about or not before. It was Arizona Nature Aquatics.
yeah, no,
And it was,
I'm not familiar.
yeah, it was owned by Ben. And I was looking at purchasing that business because it was already established and everything. I mean, I would have had to, do a full move, to Tucson, but I was willing to do it. But unfortunately, my financial portfolio wasn't ready until February, and he needed to sell in December.
Okay.
So that's why that didn't come into fruition. And then in February of 2001, yeah, 2021 is when I found the store. And by then, the kids, were the ones who motivated me and told me, "Dad, it's like, you're just laying here at home, you're stressed out, you're depressed, and it'd be nice if you open up a store so that you can, finally do what you've been wanting to do for all these years." And it literally was, a labor of love because my daughter was the one who wrote the name the Chlorophyll Corner, and we
Okay.
threw it in a hat, and we happened to pick that name out. Her friend from high school, she started doing graphic design, and she designed our logo. And then we were going to the T-Mobile in the strip in the building where we're at. And then my boy happens to say, "Hey, look, there's St. Keanu," because there was a Keanu Reeves with a dog, And it was interesting. So we look at it, but it captured our attention, and then it sets for lease. And
Oh,
in May, let's see, no, it was in January, February, March, April. In April, we went ahead and signed the lease. And
okay. April
and
of
in,
this year?
no, April 2.5 years ago.
Okay.
So that's when we signed the lease, and in May we did our grand opening. But it was literally it's all family. My dad helping out with my sister, my kids, and everything. And just let's see, it was in February of '01 when I met my wife, Katrin, which you met
Hmm.
at the store. And she's a orchid specialist. She actually has worked with over 7,000 species of orchids, both in the lab setting and the nursery setting. So, combined, we really, have a 360 when it comes to what we're doing at the store. And I'm sure you're going to talk about that a little bit here, a little bit later. So,
Oh yeah. Yeah, no. let me backtrack a little bit, because I've never known when Takashi Amano and all the aquascaping really starts taking place, because I started in the hobby like in the late 80s, early 90s. Started with the 10-gallon, like I was telling you, with some convicts. I kept them for about 3 or 4 years, and then finish high school, get into college, get into the service, and life gets real busy. I quit keeping tanks, um, not until relatively recent again. And so there's a big gap in between when I started and when I picked up again. But I noticed that there was a radical change from when I left the hobby to when I came back. And
Mhm.
one of the things that really drew me back in was precisely all these aquascape tanks, like you said, that were a little slice of nature in a glass box. I remember in the late 80s, early 90s, not seeing a whole lot of that. I remember not having access to plants, but then again, I was in a small community where, again, the Ace Hardware store was the one where you could go buy fish. And at that time, I think Walmart was just getting into the market and they were carrying fish too. That's when Walmart used to actually sell fish. So that's roughly when I'm kind of in starting into the hobby and started keeping fish. I come back and I totally forgot about the hobby. I mean, once in a while I would see an aquarium that still attract me and draw, especially when you went to like a restaurant. That's what you would usually see it, especially if it was like an Asian restaurant. For some reason, they always had aquariums. And but I had not really considered keeping aquariums. And it wasn't until I want to say like the early 2010, 13 era, right around that time, when all of a sudden I started seeing some videos about fish keeping on YouTube. And of course, at that time, the bigger channels were the King of DIY, which there wasn't a whole lot of YouTube channels, and then of course Korean Co-op. And I started watching, and I started seeing natural plants all of a sudden being a thing in aquariums, where before it was everything's artificial. So based on my gap, when does the hobby really start picking up on on the introduction of natural plants into the hobby? Because I've never known that part of the hobby.
So that's very interesting that you mentioned that, because back in the late 70s, early 80s, and then in the 90s, all of the aquascaping started becoming huge in Asia. You have Japan, you have China, Taiwan, Indonesia, Singapore. All these guys start creating upon what Takashi Yamano had laid out, and then they took it. The different Asian countries have taken it to whole different manners of doing things. I mean, I've seen tanks that look like a forest, literally, and then you've got the tanks that have the sand waterfalls in them,
Yeah.
or they make it look like it's just insane, what they've done. And then you have the Europeans, especially in Germany, it's huge. You have Eheim, who's been in the hobby for years. You have Awaza, which I'm probably saying it wrong. My wife will say it right. And then you have Denarelli, which is brought in by JVJ here into the United States. You have Sarah, which has been around forever, and late '90s. That's when it just starts hitting super big. In Europe and everything. And then here in the United States, unfortunately, I feel like we've been just the redheaded stepchild. It's taking so long for the hobby to evolve to where it's barely starting right now. Because
So
I feel comfortable saying that we as Americans aren't at the level that the Europeans or the Asians are when it comes to this kind of stuff.
so
Unfortunately.
do you think the advent of the popularity of plants, aquascaping in the hobby, coincides with the internet and being able to watch videos on there? Because
That that's exactly what's made it possible. The ability to be able to see something that you would want to that you would have the opportunity to witness when you travel to those countries, to see. That's when you would really be exposed to that kind of stuff. But if you're from a small town and and you don't have the means to do the travel, which a lot of people don't, because it's very expensive to travel, especially nowadays. If we didn't have the internet, if we didn't have YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and all that kind of stuff, we wouldn't be exposed to it like we are, and we would still be even in more dark ages compared to them when it would come to this stuff. and
Yeah.
now, and now, the big companies, the big manufacturers are seeing, that it's big in America. It's starting to get big in America. So, Eheim has introduced a whole new line of aquariums. Owaza already had them in Europe, but they're starting to come into the United States as well too. Made for aquascaping, and of course
Well,
you have ADA. I mean, that's I can comfortably say that's the best when it comes to it. There's a lot of companies, out there that do excellent work with when it comes to, the aquariums and glass products. You have Ultim Nature, you have Waterbox, Aqua Japan, so on and so forth. The list goes on. You have Lifeguard Aquatics.
yeah, but
A lot of these companies make good stuff.
they're all basically trying to do what ADA has been. Well, that's just because they've been in the game for the longest, isn't it?
Well, and a lot of the companies, have been in the game, yes, but they've seen the inclination or where, people are going towards, when it comes to, to this kind of hobby. They see that there is, that niche interest, when it comes to it, because it is a niche. It's still not huge. Any hobby is, but some of the hobbies, of course, have taken off. It's not like Pokemon yet. But and I wish it would be. Because having a little slice of nature in your home, doesn't take away from your life. It actually gives you benefits. But I definitely see the trend. All the big major manufacturers are now leaning towards the aquascaping side of things, the planted side.
uh, okay, so obviously, because like you said, a lot of this started in the early '90s and stuff like that. How does your exposure come to this? How did you come across to being able to go to these countries and be able to see this? What was it? The line of work you were doing at the time, or was it because you were
It was due to the importing that I was doing.
okay?
That got me the ability to have a lot of this exposure. And being able to bring back product that wasn't available here in the United States. That was another big thing too. I still remember my first, CO2 set, that I had, from Sarah. It's very rudimentary and everything, but I tried it and it worked for me. And it wasn't available here in the United States. So it's taken its time, for things to get here and for things to be a lot more refined. But
Well,
things are getting there.
and I think a lot of it was because unless you were subscribed to the magazines, because that's what
Oh
usually
yeah.
where you would see a lot of that stuff. You probably weren't going to get a whole lot of exposure to that side of the hobby.
No, I
Um,
think one of the good or still it's one of those really good magazines, but a lot of people don't or haven't had the opportunity to read them is Amazonia magazine. That's a fantastic magazine. It's great. And then you have of course tropical what is it, TFH still, Tropical Fish Hobbyist magazine. That's a fantastic magazine as well too. And there's a lot more stuff out there now, when it comes to that. But back then, those were kind of like the key things to look forward to, that monthly subscription of getting that magazine and seeing, what new fish was discovered, what new product came out into the market, and how things were being done. And then I think right now, just in the 2000s, things started getting a lot more interesting because of the incorporation of the terrarium and the aquarium, and here is born the paludarium, where you have, water in the bottom and then you have your epiphytics and your plants and everything, on top, and it becomes a little micro habitat. So all those things have, little by little been incorporating together until what we have today. I mean, it's one of those things to where, you can have a beautifully designed terrarium that looks like a piece of jungle, and right next to it, you can have a beautiful aquarium, or you can have a paludarium, that'll suit both needs in one. So nowadays it's just up to the creativity of the person or the individual.
Yeah, I've been having that conversation with a friend of mine and telling him, look, I think I see this trend, but it's been happening with a lot of the expos that you go to nowadays, whether it's an Aquashella or some of the new ones that are coming up, where although they might have started as a like a fish uh, mainly focused kind of event, you're starting to see where they're starting to bring in more of the house plants because of what you just said, the popularity of terrariums and paludariums. You start seeing them bring a little bit of more amphibians and reptiles that are being incorporated to some of these expos. Matter of fact, this last Aquashella, they had a big display. I think it was like a 10 by 10 room, a glass cage that they had set up and try to recreate an entire ecosystem with a flowing creek, some plants. They had some lizards in there, and I think they even had some fish within the same display.
Mm-hmm.
So you start seeing this, and then you start hearing about these new events that are being put on, especially out here in the West Coast, that originally were mostly like reptile shows. They were like the super shows that were being put out. But because I think we start seeing that merger of the hobbies, that now they're starting to incorporate in those same shows instead of just being a reptile show, it's starting to become a plant, a fish, a reptile, and a bird show. That's what they're doing up in LA. And then, and as a matter of fact, in Houston, this next month, they have something very similar to that, where they're bringing in what used to be just a reptile show now has become a reptile aquarium and everything else kind of show. So I think even in the industry, you start seeing that merger where you're bringing in a lot of these what were niche hobbies and kind of trying to incorporate them to be an all encompassing. And
Yeah.
the reality is, I think most of us at one point are kind of stepping into those different aspects of the hobby, anyways. It's not
And
a
you
yeah.
know,
Go ahead.
pardon me that I interrupted, but
No, you're fine.
if we really look at it, 2020 was a year that changed everything for us. You know, the inability of doing a lot of things, not being able to get together, not being able to go outside sometimes. People look for the things that they can have at home that would replace the vacation, that would replace, the zoo visits or the aquarium visits and everything. And that's when really the boom happened, both for the house plants, the exotics, the aquariums, the terrariums, so on and so forth. So in a weird way, there was a silver lining to 2020. There was a silver lining to the pandemic,
Yeah.
and that's what we're experiencing now. That is that silver lining, being able to incorporate all these elements and things, and being able to have, these little bits of nature in our homes that actually benefit us, with all the unfortunately mental, health issues that are out there. Being able to sit in front of an aquarium, it releases, dopamine. It just relaxes you. I myself can sit in front, of a tank, and within 5-10 minutes, if nothing's happening, I will literally just fall asleep and start snoring. Because it's totally relaxing. And I know it sounds cliche, that I'm saying this because I have a store, but it doesn't matter where I'm at. I could be in a public aquarium, and if I'm sitting there for too long, I will start, dozing off, because that's what it's meant to do. Nature actually relaxes the mind, and that's what we need more of nowadays.
Okay. Um, I'm I'm not. I was trying to see where the pictures are being. I hardly ever do any of the stuff on the computer other than live stream, and I know that I transferred them from my phone over to the computer, so I was just kind of looking for the file to see where they went. Uh, one of the one of the things that that I really recently have really enjoyed, and it's not necessarily a paludarium because I'm not really building an above structure over the aquarium, but it is incorporating houseplants and trying to create more of a natural environment over the top of the aquarium, which is one of the things about your story that just struck me. And the one thing, and I kept repeating it over and over in the video, what I really love about the fact that you can put plants over the aquarium is how all of a sudden those same plants really start softening those hard edges of an aquarium and kind of make it become a little bit more seamless and become a lot more natural looking. And
Well, and the other thing too, and I think this is what I was going to say. Pardon me. It's all because somebody put that little piece of pothos in the tank and noticed that their nitrates started going low. It's just it took that little bit of experimenting, and now it's a craze. Everybody, that comes into the store, they see the one peninsula tank that I have with the angelfish and the Denison's barbs, and I have a piece of wood that is suspended, there, and it has a spathiphyllum, a peace lily. And everybody's like, "Oh my God, you can have that in there." And I go, "Yeah, you can have that, monsteras, philodendron, so on and so forth." And they benefit your tank, but at the same time, you have to be careful. People
okay,
don't realize how well these plants take in those nitrates out. That at one point you're going to have to start dosing nitrogen into that tank
oh, okay,
because it'll zap all that nitrogen away, and then your aquatic plants are going, "Well, buddy, what are you doing here? What are we here for? Are we chopped liver?" So you got to be careful with that. You got to test your water, because plants do need that. The aquatic plants do need that supplementation of nitrogen, phosphorus, and everything else that they're supposed to get their iron and all that. But unfortunately, those terrestrial plants with the roots in the water are great exporters of nitrates. So if you're not careful, you're going to starve out your aquatic plants.
well, and I think I was kind of victim of that because I used to have a peace lily in a 20-gallon long, and I thought it was the summer that destroyed it, but I think really what it was just it didn't have anything to feed off of,
Hmm.
and because I ended up pulling it out of there, and and even though I had already converted it over to water, I put it in soil, and it started bouncing back slowly. It's taken it a while. Took a real bad beating, but it's starting to come back now
Yeah, because they
because
had
I
sucked
can,
all the nutrients out.
yeah. And
Yep.
so yeah, and that was something I was not aware of. I didn't even think it never really dawned on me that that was happening. But yeah, it just started kind of dying on its own. It didn't have anything to eat, and
Right.
even though it was extremely heavily stocked, because it was breeding guppies in there, and but it was still they become, I guess, they're a lot more efficient in pulling a lot of those excess nutrients that it was just kind of starving itself.
Yeah. They're just as good as duckweed, except that duckweed becomes a nuisance.
Well, it didn't help that I had duckweed floating on the top either. So
Oh God, you were giving it a double whammy.
yeah, and the roots got long enough where they were actually reaching the bottom into the substrate, but I didn't have anything new. It was all inert,
Mm,
other than the waste that the fish were producing. But it was just, I mean, I ended up when I ended up pulling it out of there, I actually broke it down, and I think I was able to get like four different plants out of that one because
that
basically
bunch.
all I did was I bought the plant, uh, shook off all the dirt, washed it all off, had the exposed roots, and just kind of put it up there. But if I had really paid attention, there was several plants that I could have separated from there and been able to put it in different aquariums. But you just kind of learn as you go, though.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes you do. It's just one of those things that I mean, if you don't try, you don't know. Professionals don't become professionals, unless they've achieved or killed certain things, or experts. So, a lot of people tell me, "Oh my God, it's like all your tanks are so clear, so clean." What do you do? What are you adding to your tanks? I go, "I'm not adding anything. I'm just doing maintenance on them." It just
Yeah,
it takes that weekly maintenance. Those water changes, they make a big difference. Making sure that your filtration isn't saturated with with too much detritus in there. Cleaning out your sponge filters for those who use sponge filters. We do in our store, and at least once a month we go ahead and we clean our sponge filters with aquarium water, so we won't reset the tanks, but we do it so that we can maintain things in the right direction without having tremendous algae issues. We are retailers of the Green Water Labs algae control, but the tanks are at a state now where I don't use that much algae control in them anymore. Or some of them I don't even use it anymore, and that's because they've matured, they're settled, and there's no need for it. If you have a well balanced tank, you're not going to need any type of chemical or additive, to maintain it algae free. So
Okay.
that's one thing that I did want to mention tonight, because a lot of people think that, the tanks in my store look great because I'm constantly pumping algae control into them, and I'm not. It's just literally the maintenance that we do. Me and my wife, we're on a constant, clock rotation literally during the week, where we take, our for sale tanks first, and then we go to the displays little by little until we make a full, clock round around until we get to our counter. That's the end of the week, when we hit our tanks that are in the counter. So,
Okay.
definitely, keeping that maintenance, that's key.
Now, when you guys are doing that, do you have like you start on one side of the store and work your way that way, or you guys have them set up by sections? You go this day we do these tanks, or how do you guys
Yeah,
go about doing?
so literally like a clock. We start, with the tanks that are, all the 10 gallons that are tanks, that are for sale.
Okay.
And we do the algae scrubbing, we do, the filter cleaning if needed, or if not, the water changes. And then we work ourselves to the other tanks just like a clock. The clock would turn.
Okay.
And when we hit 6 o'clock, which would be the counter, that's at the end of the week already. So by
Okay.
Thursday, from Tuesday to Thursday, that is the time that it takes us to clean all the tanks until we get to the counter. So 3 days basically.
So okay. Now you've done all of this. At what point is this going at the same exact? For those that are not aware, and this being November, the month that they do celebrate us veterans, and thank you for your service.
You're
Even
welcome.
though it's only one day that they
Thank you.
celebrate us, but at least they take the time, the decency to give us a day to remember us. But I know you were in the service. All of this is it going on at the same time, or did you take a break from the hobby?
I had to take a break, and at that time, it was mostly, my first wife who was taking care of a lot of tanks. Because at one point I had 22 tanks in California. Uh, my smallest tank was a 2 gallon, and the biggest one was a 500-gallon reef we had. So, it was a lot of work, and of course, friends helping out, when it was needed, and all that. It was just, it was again at that time, it was a labor of love as well too. Family really turned around and helped and everything, because yeah, there was periods of times that, there was literally no attention that I could give because I wasn't around. And luckily, things were always taken care of, because my first wife learned how to take care of the tanks real well and everything, so that helped out tremendously. um, and just knowing that I had that support, made me comfortable knowing that my tanks were always going to look good no matter what. So a shout out to everybody out there that helps, a veteran in a time of need. That's really well appreciated.
Now, obviously, then from what you just said, you're not originally from Arizona.
No, I'm from California originally.
Okay. So when
Yeah,
when do you when do you start making Arizona your permanent residence?
it was at the end of 20. Let's see, it was the end of 2009.
Okay.
When we moved over here. In 2008, that was when I basically parted ways with my military service.
Okay.
And unfortunately, that year I had a heart attack as well. And that was a big life changer for me, because um, I was alcohol and tobacco were kind of like my PTSD remedies, and just like many. And then something that I rarely talk about, but that I do mention, and the reason why I mention it is because, unfortunately, the percentage of veterans that are lost due to PTSD by suicide is very high now. My first wife actually stopped me from taking my own life, and this was at the end of 2008. So, it was very hard for me to want to go to therapy, like many, but she was there for me and everything, and that's what helped. We move out here. I call it my second lease in life, moving out to Arizona. In California, I used to do, basically just commercial architecture, commercial work. Moved out here. I didn't work for about 6 months. Fishing was kind of like my outing. I brought back about 6 tanks from California over here to Arizona. At the time, AquaTouch was still open in Scottsdale, and I sold Michael basically 90% of my aquatic plants that I had. I had a
Okay.
whole bunch of stuff that was new, into the hobby here in America and everything. And I basically did a fire sale. I got rid of a lot of things. And, it was about the beginning of 2010 when I started, here now getting back into the hobby again. And Aquatouch became my store to go to because, they carried ADA. They had the
Okay.
fertilizers, they had the lighting, they had the equipment, they had everything. They also had saltwater too. But I didn't do any of the saltwater. I just at the time I did just freshwater planted, and basically that was my comeback again here in Arizona to the aquarium side of things.
So when obviously you were doing your architecture work and you come to Arizona, when does that the idea of thinking I'm going to open up a store, because I know your
It
kids were the
was
ones that convinced you to do
it
it,
was
but
it, well, it was my kids who mentioned it.
yeah.
It didn't even cross my mind. After what had happened, starting in March, because it was March 14th when I lost my wife. March 15th, everything went to hell, with COVID. Um, my head was in a million places. And that's when I decided, I'm leaving architecture. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not doing construction anymore. I was done. Mentally I was just fried basically. Um, I had to, go and have some more therapy. Because I was in a very bad state. Never in my mind did it cross me that I was going to lose, my wife so young, and then have three kids, because that's the tough part. I didn't know what it was to be a mom, you know. So, luckily my mom was still, alive, and of course my sister. My sister lived with me actually for almost 8 months
Wow.
in 2020 because she didn't want to go home. My sister's a nurse, and she
Okay.
didn't want to go home and bring COVID to my mom because my mom was, a cancer patient as well.
Oh,
So,
okay.
she didn't want to bring COVID home. So she stayed with me, and it was just one of those things to where I had lost interest in everything. I got rid of all my collectibles. I used to have a huge collection of G1 Transformers, Thundercats, Voltrons, yeah, you name it, sideshow collectible, statues and all that crap, and I lost complete interest in it. I had a huge watch collection too, sold everything, I didn't care for anything. I mean, I literally was at a point in my life where I just wanted to literally close my eyes one day and not wake up again, and thankfully, the one thing that always would come to mind when I would think like that was the promise that I made to my wife that I was going to take care of my kids, and that's what kept me going, and then of course, the kids telling me it's like, hey dad, you need to do something here, and that was a push, honestly, that was a push. If it wasn't for my kids, the store wouldn't have, the store wouldn't be, you
Okay.
know, I don't know where else or how things would have gone, but I'm glad they went the way they went, you know, because, now, we have a store for 2.5 years now. I enjoy seeing everybody that comes to the door. Everybody has a story. Some people just come in and decompress. My business is a safe space business. So if anybody ever just wants to come in and relax and talk shop or not talk at all and just look at the fish or the plants, you're more than welcome to. Like I tell people, you don't have to spend money in my store to come into my store and, just kind of take a load off. And if you feel like talking, hey, let's talk, you know, because sometimes that's all we need sometimes is just to be able to let it out and, take that elephant from your shoulders off, and more than once it's happened at the store, and I feel grateful and blessed, that we're able to do that, with our customers.
Yeah. So I'm trying to find the photographs that I downloaded. I found the file, but that's the only problem with I'm so used to doing everything off my phone that when it comes to the laptop, I know I send them through Bluetooth to share the pictures, but
Mm-hmm.
now I can't. I don't know what folder it defaulted to.
Go
So
check your downloads. Maybe it's in the download folder.
yeah, that's what I was looking at, but I don't see them in there. Let me look again because I would think I was looking under my personal file, but it could just be in the generic downloads. Maybe let's see. But if anything, I got the website to your store opened up,
Yeah,
and
which
and
actually we're gonna be getting it professionally redone.
okay,
Um, if you go
let
on
me
there,
share.
you'll go ahead.
No, I'm just going to share the screen for the website that you have for your store.
Okay.
Let's see.
What I was gonna say is right now you'll still see a lot of the house plant pictures and stuff in there as well.
Mm-hmm.
There are aquarium pictures and everything in there. Yep, that is the main page. Um, but yeah, all that we need to update our hours on there too as well and all that.
Okay.
But yeah, you can directly contact us from the store. I mean, sorry,
Well,
from the website.
yeah, and I
Yeah,
know Instagram is also a pretty good way to get in touch with you guys because I know that's originally how I started contacted you was through Instagram, and even though it was after hours, she still got back to me.
yeah. No, you know what? I'm always on Instagram because I do my own social media at the moment. Um, that is our story there. That's my beautiful wife, Katrin.
Uh-huh.
We actually got married last year, September, the 24th.
Oh, congratulations.
And thank you. And that's just a little bio about our story as a family and how the Chlorophyll Corner became. And of
Let me
course,
see.
Katrin and you know uh, what we do, our guarantee, so on and so forth. That's the gallery,
Yeah.
of pictures of things.
Yeah.
So
So, oh,
that's all going to
go.
get redone.
Okay. Yeah, and I need to see. Do I have them on Instagram? I don't think I downloaded all those pictures onto Instagram, but because I really wanted to see. Oh, wait. What am I doing? Why am I struggling? I can just go to my video. I'm gonna plug myself. If you haven't seen this video, you need to go see it. let
Oh
me sh-
God.
let me share that video where I can kind of do a walk through the store. Uh, let's
I know
see.
you kept saying Chandler, but we're actually located in Tempe.
I know. You know what? I am so sorry because I didn't catch it until you pointed it out. And the thing was, I was gonna before the original plan, I was gonna go to Plants and Fins to go do their store, the
The
new
new location.
location. Oh wait
Yeah.
up, let me turn the. All right, let me get past that embarrassing part where I keep calling it saying that you guys are in Chandler.
Well, you
Uh,
also call it the chloroform.
yeah, I know. I was yeah.
I'm like, what am I? Do we embalm here or
Yeah, I know. It was pretty bad. You can tell. For those of you that haven't been noticing, I am not a professional. But no, it was. Yeah, it was pretty bad. But I still wanted to make sure that people got a sense for what the store was like, because like I said, to me, I had never really experienced anything quite like it. Um, so
Oh, there
uh,
he is.
yeah, this is me being an idiot and calling it different things in a different city. Um, but and this is okay for those of you that are considering creating content. Let me stop it here before we go. And I was just kind of sharing the hours with you. Uh, do yourself a favor and make sure you guys edit your videos and don't be like me where I just upload without editing. I hate editing, but I think I need to do a better job. And this is as you come in. Look at this. You walk in there and immediately you got moss, that Spanish moss. I mean, there's just plants everywhere in the aquariums, out of the aquariums. I mean, you
On
have
top of the
carnivorous.
aquarium.
Yeah, on top of the aquariums. I mean, it's just if you have any affinity for plants, this is definitely the store for you. And here's the other thing that really struck me. And you know what? Um, I've been doing a little bit of the store tours, for a little bit. But for some reason here in Phoenix, especially um, the most recent stores, you guys have really paid attention to detail. And what I mean by that is I'm used to going to the older, more established stores, and there's junk everywhere. I mean, there's just a mess everywhere. And I don't know if it's because they've just been open for so long, or I don't know. I don't know what it is. But your store and the one that I had seen before this, the one thing that stood out is how impeccably clean it is. I mean, you walk in there, everything is well in a place. There's nothing you're gonna trip over. The floors are clean. The atmosphere smells clean. You don't smell that like stagnant water kind of smell that you get in some of these older fish stores.
You mean the old musky tropical fish store smell?
Yeah, none of that.
I miss that sometimes. You know?
I know. I every time I walk in my, that's the one thing I always dread walking into my fish room is walking in and go, oh, okay, it doesn't smell like that. Hmm. Well, anyways, let's kind of share a little bit of let's brag a little bit about your story. So you come in and it's you have everything set up there. This let me see if it goes back to it. I gotta pause it. This right there. Oh yeah, this right here just blew me away. I had never ever seen a setup, and this is not the only one you have too. So
my bog rock, that's the bog rock. So
yeah,
here's a little backstory to this. So when my wife moved over here from Vista, from California, she had that rock for 18 years, and it actually was planted with some cactus.
oh
And bringing it over here, of course, since we are Arizona, we are a hellhole here. How hot it gets,
yeah,
it killed everything that was on that rock. So she, it's like, and it killed a whole bunch of plants too, unfortunately. But that's just the weather here,
yeah.
And the rock was just kind of sitting there and everything. And one day I look at it and I go, so what are we going to do with the rock? And she's all like, oh, well, you can do whatever, you want with it. And we happened to get one of our Manzanita orders in. By the way, our Manzanita is exclusive to us. And it's all here Arizona sourced, because I had to throw that little commercial in there, of course. But that piece of Manzanita, I looked at it, and then I looked at the rock, and I'm like, that's too good to be true. And I literally just put it on top, and it fits like a key. It's incredible. And that's a 15-gallon Aqua Japan, and it just fit perfectly. It just
Now,
fit perfectly.
did you drill the rock to be able to get the spring coming over the top, or how? Cause I
No,
didn't really peek at it.
there's no drilling whatsoever. Actually, I have a little lifeguard internal filter on there,
Okay.
and I have a small piece of hose coming to the back, which I've
Okay.
camouflaged with moss and everything, and it just
Oh,
it's literally at the top of the rock, and it trickles down into the tank.
yeah, because it's just like a little tear of water. It's not like a running stream or anything
Hmm.
like that. It's just enough to keep the surface wet. You see, and you can
It's
see me trying to look and see how you did it. But you obviously did a pretty good job. And then to my defense, this is kind of high, so it's not like I get up and look around the back. And I was trying to peek. I think you had a wild type betta in there. I was
Yeah,
looking to see.
I have an embellis in there, and then I have, let's see, some green neons and also some albino cardinal tetras.
Yeah. But yeah, I was really impressed with that. I had never really seen anybody do carnivorous plants with as a paludarium.
Hmm.
So that was really interesting.
And people have been doing carnivorous plants forever in the planet tanks. You look at UG, right? UG, Utricularia gramifolia, that is a carnivorous plant.
Oh, okay.
But you can grow it immersed or submersed.
Mm,
Obviously, in its immersed form, it will flower for you.
yeah, it's just just watching this.
Yeah.
It was very inspiring. I mean, I left out of there and I was like going, man, I really need to step up my fish room because, uh, you there's no excuse. We try to use the excuse. Well, I got several tanks, so I can't really keep them impeccable. Wow, bullshit. you're doing it, and it's just you and your wife. So really,
It's
I
just me
just
and my wife. You know what? We've had employees, before.
yeah,
Some of them have been fantastic employees, Uh, but for some reason or another, unfortunately, we're all suffering from something this day and age,
yeah.
So, the employees, don't last or they move, So now we're at a point in our lives where, it's just literally me and my wife. We were open 7 days a week, but you know what? It takes a toll on you. So we are now closed Mondays. We
Okay.
take a breather basically, and even though we're taking a breather, we still do stuff for the store because it's impossible not to,
Yeah.
but being those 6 days there and everything, it's a full-time job, you know, you're never idle basically. You're always doing something, you know. But it's rewarding because you again you get to see things flourish, things evolve, things change. You get to meet all these wonderful people who either have been in the hobby for many many years, or have just started in the hobby and started with one little tank, and now I have one customer that started with a 2.5 gallon shrimp tank, and now he's got like 18 of them. So you never know. You get the MTS problem, multiple tank syndrome.
Yeah. The other thing that was kind of cool is this right here. You go in there
Oh,
and
my
the
my
last
my,
thing,
my token reef tank.
yeah, you go in there and everything is like fresh water, fresh water, fresh water. I'm going, oh, they don't have any salt water. That's interesting. And there you go. I spoke too early, but
Yeah.
what is this? Mostly corals is what you're selling and displaying here, correctly?
Well, I'm not selling any of those corals.
Oh, okay.
No, no, those corals. They're. I set up the tank for my wife because she
Oh, okay.
has never had a saltwater tank and everything. So I go, you know what? Let's set up a little tiny reef. And the other reason why I set it up is to show people the amount of equipment that it takes to keep a reef going properly. You know,
Oh,
I mean, the damn thing even has an auto top off because you want to maintain, your salinity, constant. You don't want that change, especially on small tanks. A small reef tank can go south so quick if you're not taking care of it right. So, it's just kind of like to show people, okay, this is the equipment that you need for this versus, a freshwater tank. So, uh, it's as an educational tool, but at the same time, possibly down the line, if we do end up moving from this location to a bigger location, I will, have a WYSIWYG coral section. What you see is what you get, basically. Just,
okay.
hand cherry pick stuff, not your, random stuff that you would just see everywhere. Just,
And
just
here you
premium
had
stuff.
a couple of lizards. So you
Also,
carry a very
well, that right there, let me tell you a little story about that. That is Phylozoo Terrarium, a new company out of Taiwan. I'm the only company in Arizona right now that we're going to start carrying these terrariums.
oh,
They
okay.
sent me that as a sample, and I decided to make it into a little desert just because everything's green inside the store. I'm like, all right, we'll make it into a little desert. So we got a pair of yellow Saharan geomastics and two male Saharan geomastics, the red ones that are in there. Um, just super chill lizards that you can have. Very easy to keep. Pardon me. In my book, I feel that they're easier than bearded dragons, and they have just the same chill disposition. The animals won't bite you, which is really cool.
Oh, okay.
But that's the reason why we have them. It is for sale, the entire thing. So if you guys want to come in, I'll give you a crazy Black Friday deal for the entire thing because I need the room. That's we're at that point where I need the room. I'm gonna add another rack of tanks, just to expand it a little more.
uh, Now, where does the idea of setting? Because this is not set up like a conventional store. The layout of it, like I said, not only does it feel like you're actually walking outdoors, but it also has a real kind of like home feel to it. Like if you were in somebody's home, the way things are laid out, the way things are kind of. You have a lot of little accent pieces next to your plants that are not necessarily just aquarium. There's like these little small detail, attention to detail kind of things that you find throughout the entire store. And this, what I really loved about it, it didn't matter how many times I went by and looked at something. Every time I came back, I saw something I didn't see the last time. So there's a lot of little things that tie it all in that you don't take it all. You don't notice it at first, but the longer you look at it, the more these things start coming to the forefront, and you start noticing it. It's like you'll have little tiny vases, and just little things that make it feel a lot more homey and not so much a store. Is that from you, or is that from Katrina, or who's the inspiration for that?
It's both of us because we
Okay.
had to literally reinvent the store at the beginning of the year.
Okay.
We were very heavily into the house plants, the exotic house plants. Um, we were importing a lot of plants and stuff. Uh, but we saw the writing in the wall. When Walmart has a plant that used to cost $400 and they're selling it for 15 now.
Uh,
It's time to jump ship and time to change things. What I have now is what I wanted originally for the store, but the
okay.
house plant market was so big, at the time. So we had to reinvent it. The biggest thing for me though is taking into consideration some of the stores in Japan. There is one particular store that's called Tall Man Aquarium. They're in God, I can't remember if it was in Tokyo or if it was in oh, I believe it's in Tokyo. Tall Man Aquarium is what it's called. You guys can Google it. But if you see the inside of the store, it has that homey feel, like you say.
Mm.
It's like you're walking into somebody's personal space.
Yeah, it
And
doesn't it doesn't feel like a store at all, really. I mean, it's just that's why, like I said, I was so impressed. I'm so impressed that I'm even having you back on here to talk about your store. That's
yeah,
how much I really liked it.
yeah,
Oh, this
we
part right here, that greenhouse, I walked by that a couple of times and never paid attention to it. I didn't realize all the amount of plants she had in there.
yeah. So 99% of our aquarium, sorry, our terrarium plants, we propagate them in-house. Um, this is just but a little sampling of what we have. I mean, what we have here at the house is, it just surpasses that. Of course, my wife, and the orchids. I mean, we've got orchids that range from all sorts of sizes. Air plants, philodendrons, you name it. We have them and we propagate them. Magravias, we have peperomias, different types of begonias, jewel orchids, so on and so forth, that we propagate for the terrariums. And of course, the mosses. So for the
Yeah.
mosses, we go, and we go to our greenhouse in California, and that's where we get our mosses from. We grow them ourselves, but the whole thing is that moss takes it's so slow. Even in a commercial environment, quote unquote, growing, the mosses, it gets difficult sometimes. So
Here's a
that oh yeah, that's that tank. Go ahead.
Yeah, this one was another one that it just kind of blew my mind away. It was what uh, I love how you figured out how to set up these little gardens on top of hardscape and make it be part of the aquarium. Again, these are some carnivorous plants with some regular plants, correct?
Yeah, so there is a pitcher plant in the center there. Obviously, it's very washed out because of how bright the light is.
Yeah.
But it's a dwarf pitcher. It's a purpurea, and then I have hydrocotyl and mosses that are growing from inside of the tank to the outside of the tank. So it's in submerged and immersed. But you can get an idea of it, and if you can see, the hydrocotyl is blooming. Those little white balls that you see there, those are actually the blooms of the hydrocotyl right there.
Now, is that a piece of driftwood or was it a rock? I don't remember.
No, that was actually a root barrel
Oh,
from Manzanita that my wife had for, again, like over 20 years. And it had this point to it. And I kept looking at this tank that I've had this little 5 gallon tank for probably about, I don't know, 15 years or so. And I looked at it one day and I'm like, you know what? I go, this would look kind of interesting. And I found a piece of cerule stone that literally has the dimension necessary for that point of that piece of root to fall right into it. So it's like a floating island basically.
Yeah.
And I have water going onto it as well too, because I have a little pump on there as well. I don't know if you noticed that or not, but there is running water on it on the top.
Yeah, again, but it's not it's more like a weeping over the top that it just
That
keeps
is
everything.
correct.
Yeah,
Keeps
so but
everything moist and wet. Hmm.
yeah, so but it's just like I said, it's this store to me. It's just one of those memorable stores because it's just so much. There's, I mean, I literally I had my original plan was as follows for that day. I was supposed to go do, like I said, plants and fins, but I spent what was it, like 3 hours at your store
Yeah.
when I was thinking I was going to be there for an hour. And it just it got to the point where I said, all right, well but it was well worth it because it was just so much. I mean, uh, even watching the video now and being there as long as I was, I'm still seeing stuff that I hadn't picked up the first time around.
Hmm.
So, but it's just there isn't a space in that store that isn't there isn't something, a little treasure that you can find. And is everything for sale that's there, or are there certain things that are exclusively
90,
just for the store?
90% of the store is for sale. I do have my display tanks, and I have little tags that say, fish in these tanks are not for sale. Because obviously I want to have displays so that I can inspire the next person, the next generation of what they can do and make it better. You know, that's what I tell customers. I go, if you want to take my, designs or my ideas, as inspiration, that's fantastic. Make it your own though. Make it better than mine. Because that ultimately is what's going to make you happy, with what you have. We do have, we've got a 240-gallon tank that basically has housed, fish that I've had for many years or fish that people, have just brought to the store and, you know, um, just decided to drop off basically because they can't keep it. But I am going to turn that tank in it was had tchotchkes in it. So I had all these little bubbling things and stuff that I couldn't afford when I was a kid. Now as an older person, whatever, I had them in there. But I've decided I'm going to take all that out and I'm actually going to make a proper black water display out of that 240.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I kept the video, and I don't even know if this is a thing or not, but I kept referring to your store because of the way it's set up. I consider it kind of like a boutique store. It's not
Yeah,
your
it's a specialty store. That's ultimately, I guess, the proper term for it. It's a niche store. It's a specialty store because all we do now is just planted aquariums and terrariums, and it's not just your conventional stuff. We do custom work as well too.
okay.
So we have clients that we've built terrariums built into the wall. We have one that's a 300-gallon that I'll be posting some updates on, into Instagram here in the next following days. I've done, enormous, wet walls with all sorts of, plants and carnivorous plants, streams, you name it. Same thing with the aquariums, the planet aquariums, I've done enormous planet aquariums as well too. So, it's not just the conventional stuff that we do. A lot of people think that it's just the tiny stuff that we specialize in, but we don't. We can pretty much create anything that's in here. We can go ahead and make it a reality. And ultimately that's a big satisfaction for us too, seeing people's eyes just go, oh my God, that's what we've always wanted, and we finally found somebody to do it.
So
So
you actually go and install setups at homes and
yep,
stuff like that?
we sure
Oh,
do.
nice.
Yeah, we
Now
do
let
it. We do. Go ahead.
before I forget, because I know I will. For those that don't happen to live in the state of Arizona, do you guys ship to outside of Arizona, or
So that's
because I
something
know
that
plants can get a little tricky, right?
they can get tricky, but this is something that we will start here this year, 2024. We're actually going to start offering shipping of dry goods
Okay.
and plants and invertebrates. Um, Fish, that's a whole different dynamic, especially with the price on shipping, because everything is just about weight nowadays and it's so expensive. As a matter of fact, I'm getting, some isopods, 100 isopods. Next day delivered, from Florida here to Arizona, it's $40. I mean, it's insane, for a next day delivery. So you imagine a box full of fish, if it's shipped out that way, it's a lot of money. Uh, we possibly will in the future if we do airport to airport. We'll be able to do that, through like Southwest Airlines,
Okay.
running about $75, $80 for a couple boxes. Um, but yeah, definitely we're going to open shop for online ordering and for shipping as well here in 2024.
Nice. Yeah, because I mean, like I said, I don't know how prevalent these type of shops are elsewhere, but like I said, I've been doing this for a little bit, and this is the first shop that I come across that's like this. It has all these rare plants and all the stuff for the aquariums. You can go to nurseries, but that's what you're going for a nursery because you want to go buy plants specifically. But to see them in a shop like this is the first time I got to experience something like that.
We want to be, your one-stop shop.
Mm-hmm.
If you're buying for your amphibians, you're buying for your terrariums, you're buying for your fish, you're buying for your house plants, so on and so forth. We want to have it available for you. That way you don't have to be traveling throughout town and spending all your gas because gas is expensive as well too. That's one of the reasons. The other reason is that we are the only authorized ADA dealer, Aqua Design and Mono dealer in the entire state of Arizona. So if you're looking for ADA products, we are the source. Of course, because we've just started bringing in the product into the store. Right now, it's taking a little bit longer logistically to get the stuff in, especially because it's the end of the year. But we will have a new shipment of ADA products again here, probably around the second or third week of December, which will include some special orders as well for our customers. But a great majority of stuff, bringing in more tanks, bringing in more some of the tools, more glassware. We do carry the fertilizers, but a lot more of the soils and all that kind of stuff as well.
Okay. Now, on this is just my personal interest. How involved are you guys with some of the local the fish clubs there in the Phoenix area?
Well, we've sponsored. We've done sponsoring for SAS. You
Okay.
know, as a matter of fact, they contacted me earlier this week. They're gonna have the
Christmas
like the
party.
year-end party. Yeah, exactly. So they contacted me if we would go ahead and give something out for the raffle, and of course we said yes.
Okay.
But that's about the only group that we're mostly involved with.
Okay.
I wish we could have the time to go to the meetings and to go to the swap meets and all that kind of stuff. In the beginning we were, unfortunately, as we got more busier and busier and not being able to have somebody that could stay in the store and be able to answer all the questions for our customers. That's what's hindered us from going. We are going to go though to that one event in California in January where the
Okay.
big show. Yeah, we actually put up for a booth, a corner booth there, and we're going to be in the reptile section because we're going to have our terrarium plants, terrariums, and also going to bring some of the aquatic stuff for the paludariums as well too for sale. Some
Nice.
of the ADA stuff too that can go in that side of the hobby. So we will have a booth at that show, which will be fun. And then we're also going to be here in Arizona at the Home and Garden Show in the greenhouse area of the Home and Garden Show. We're going to have a booth there as well too, so you guys can go and check us out and say come on by and say hi.
When is that going to happen there? The home and
Uh,
garden show.
it's going to be in January as well too. I believe it's the 10th, 11th, or 12th. I can't remember the exact dates to be honest with you right now, but it's the one show that's going to be at the fairgrounds in January.
Okay. Yeah, because I think
Mhm.
the one up in Pomona, that's in June, isn't it?
Oh,
Of
is it
24.
June?
Yeah,
Yeah, there
I
we
think it's
go. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, that,
yeah.
that I'm excited. I'm looking forward to going to that. I've never really been to any of the big shows like that. I was trying to get out to Aquashella, but it seems like more and more every time that just kind of is not really looking like a reality for me just because they keep going further and further to the East Coast.
Hmm.
And if I do a East Coast trip, I have to pick the one that I want to do. And right now, the one that's most appealing to me is not Aquashella, but the Clash. And it's just because of there's a lot of people that are here in this chat currently that I would have an opportunity to get to meet them and hang out with them. So to me, that's what's becoming more appealing, is that opportunity to be able to hang out with some of the people that have supported me, and some of the friendships that I've made, and finally be able to do a face to face. So that's one of the reasons why every time it seems more like I'm going to be geared to going to that event if I have to pick one in the East Coast.
That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah. So, but I'm going to try to do as many as I can, since they're coming up here on the West Coast, because most of those will be driving distance for me.
Hmm.
So, you know, I don't have a problem driving 3 hours. That's how I end up in Phoenix. And I'll turn around and drive back that same day. That's not a problem. That's a short drive for me.
Hey, yeah,
But
you know what? And once again, I really appreciate you coming by our store when you did. You know,
oh no,
reaching out and telling me that you wanted to come and do a little video. We always appreciate that word of mouth advertisement. That's the one that's a lot more powerful than something that I would pay for.
yeah. Well, obviously, I believe in what you're doing, to the point that I've asked you to come back and be able to speak on your store. So I just, like I said, it's a very, very unique store. Everything in there looked absolutely fabulous, from the livestock to your plants to your products. Um, just the presence of the store, you know, it's just, you guys have done an excellent job. I mean, it's just,
Thank you.
I mean, it's by far one of the most memorable stores that I've been to.
Thank
Obviously,
you.
one of the most impactful stores.
I really appreciate that. Thank you very
and
much.
and seeing stuff like that, you just got to make people aware of it, that it's out there, because they're very far few and in between that you can
Uh,
find the type of store.
We get a lot of people going, how long have you been here? I go 2.5 years. Oh my God, we didn't know that. And it's taken some time, for the word to get out in the fish community, and everything. But yeah, we're in the city of Tempe. Our address is 7510 South Priest Drive, and we're suite number 105. We're literally a corner across from T-Mobile in the same building. So if you see T-Mobile, you look all the way to the other corner, you see the Chlorophyll Corner there. Um, and right now, like I said, we're open 6 days a week. So Tuesday through Sunday. It's Tuesday through Friday from 12 to 7, Saturday from 10 to 7, and Sunday from 11 to 5. Today we opened up special hours because of Black Friday. We were open 11 from 11 to 7. And
How did it go?
oh, it went great. If some of our patrons that were there today are on right now, we'd like to thank them, for coming out. We're having a pretty cool raffle right now too, so that always is exciting for people. And the discounts, we're doing 30 to 50% off. You come in, you stick your hand in a jar, and you pick out your percentage. And we actually had several 50% offs today, which is very nice. It was pretty exciting for people, and a lot of 40s. Yeah, we try to do it so that we can get people involved in the hobby. We know that it is tough times. We know that a lot of people don't have expendable income right now. But wherever we can help, and do a give a discount, and of course, you can come in to ask as many questions as you like. Our knowledge is free. We don't charge for it. As a matter of fact, right now in December, I'm going to be doing a aquascaping 101 class again, and then there's going to be the pros and cons of CO2. So basically, getting intro to CO2 as well too, because a lot of people are afraid of carbon dioxide and the use of it in aquariums. But there's a lot more benefits that outweigh the negative side of carbon dioxide use. So I encourage everybody who's got time, and once we post it, to come on in and be a part of that. There's no cost to our classes, and typically when we have the classes, we give discounts too. And I may also do one on terrariums, container terrariums again. So just to try to keep people interested in the hobbies.
Nice. Now, here's the $1 million question. Obviously, you have a store full of aquariums. How many do you have at home?
Zero. Well, no, I take that back. Um, we have two beta fish.
Oh, okay.
Um, one that's my wife's, one that's mine. We have a ton of plants in the house, tons of orchids and stuff. But the tanks, yeah, I prefer having them, in the store where I can tend to them all the time, and I can come home and literally just, just have dinner and go to sleep. Because the store literally is our second home.
Yeah.
We're there, a lot more than what we are here at home. But yeah, no, we do have a lot of animals still. We have three birds. We have an African gray. We have a blue and red mountain lorikeet. We have a lovebird that we rescued 3 years ago from the parking lot with my wife. Fell off one of the trees. And the two beta fish. We have two tortoises. We have four Pac-Man frogs and three Pac-Man frogs and a pixie. So we do keep busy, and of course, like I said, amongst all the orchids and other plants, and then
You
of
leave
course,
work. You leave work to come work at home.
yeah, and then of course, all the quarantine tanks in the garage and stuff. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah, that's the other 4 hours of work pretty much every night.
Yeah. And I know we
Never
didn't
ends.
touch on. I know we didn't touch on this, but on your livestock, for the aquatic side, you guys specialize mostly, would you say, in nanofish? Then
Yeah, nano microfish, anything that is plant safe, we're going to carry.
okay.
So basically, your apistos, your rams, your rasboras, tetras, correadoras, amano shrimp, pinocchio shrimp, neocardinias, cardinias, vampires, bamboos, the different neorite snails, even the new king koopa algae eating snails. We have those in stock as well too. All the bushy nose plecos, autocinclus, angelfish, discus, anything that's going to go in a planted aquarium, we have. We also carry vampire crabs for those who want to have, a nice paludarium with them. We carry vampire crabs. Um, we carry the frogs, poison arrow frogs, red-eyed tree frogs, and of course, right now we have the Euromastics, like I said,
Yeah.
because I set that
You also
display up.
you
Hmm.
also have a few snakes too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, mostly the pair of the snakes that I have there, those are mine.
Oh,
It's a
okay,
pair.
okay.
It's a pair of Honduran tangerine, hypotangerine milk snakes. And I have my iguana. I have a banana pictinia iguana. His name is Grimlock. Probably one of the
Oh
sweetest
yeah,
iguanas
that
you
that
ever
big.
had. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not
He's
green. It's brown, isn't it, or something like
no,
that?
no. He's bright yellow.
Yeah, I know it wasn't the
Yeah.
normal green color that you
No,
used to
he's
see.
not. He's bright yellow. That right there was something that I've always wanted to have for years, and I never had the opportunity. And it came by that a friend of mine, I bent his arm backwards to sell him to me because it was one that he wanted to breed because of his color. He's a very high yellow. He's a beautiful animal. Uh, but yeah, we have him. His name's Grimlock, and of course, my wife having those Euromastics, if they don't sell, we'll probably end up bringing them home and we'll have the Euromastics here at home, so that I can have my space because I also want to set up a small scaping dojo as well. So
Oh, okay, okay.
you can bring in your dimensions and you can, set up the hardscape and everything right there. So yeah, I mean, basically we carry everything for your planted tank and your terrarium. So it's all up to what you want to create and your ideas.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said. I know I sound like a broken record, but it really is. It was one of those stories that I just not going to forget about it. It was very, very, very interesting, very unique. I if you haven't figured that out by now, how much I like the story, it's just you haven't been
Oh, you
paying
hate it.
attention.
I mean, I can tell you hate the store. But yeah,
Yeah, but
you're
it's
more.
not just me though. That's the thing though. It's not just me. Everybody that comes in there, that's kind of the same reaction if they haven't been there before. So
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean it's just one of those things. I mean, I think one thing that speaks volumes about what we do and who we are is our following on Instagram. We've got over 81,000 followers, and it's just when we first started, we started off with like 5 followers, 2.5 years ago, and it's grown and it's grown, and we're thankful for that. But mostly, being able to kind of show the world, what we do, who we are. That helps out a lot. A lot of the manufacturers, will, reach out and want to do content with us too. So you'll start seeing a little bit more of us working together with
Oh, nice.
Sarah Aquarium Products. So yeah, we're going to be working hand in hand with them. We're also going to be doing a lot more things with CCHE as well this year,
Okay.
and Owasa as well. So yeah, you'll be seeing the Chlorophyll Corner a little bit more on their sites as well, on their pages and everything. So we have a lot of things coming up here this year.
Well,
Uh,
one of the bigger partnerships you currently have, isn't it with Green Labs or something like that? It
with
seems like you.
Green Water Labs, yeah, their advertisement is everywhere right now. Um, Patience is a virtue right now with algae control products because it's such a high demand. Um, they're a little backed up right now with production, as you guys who have possibly ordered the product are still waiting for it. You may be about 30, maybe 60 days out before you get your product.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that's how backed up they are. So that's the only little downfall when it comes to that. We will more than likely have our stock of the Green Water Labs available here next week by next weekend. Aside from that, like I tell people, algae control is not a miracle cure. It isn't snake oil either. It does work. You just have to do the dosing according to label instructions. But the biggest point of it all is your weekly maintenance. If you're able to do your weekly maintenance, if you're able to keep things on track, you're going to use it as a preventative, not as a cure. Yes, it does pretty much kill every type of algae, but it's not going to happen overnight.
Yeah.
This is not algae fix where it's toxic, to crustaceans. It's actually safe for everything, including axolotls. I've even dosed it on my carnivorous plants in the bog, and it hasn't had any ill effect whatsoever on it. I've tried it with all sorts of sensitive species of fish, CPDs, chili rasboras, galaxies, what is it, phoenix rasboras, strawberry rasboras, all these little microfish and everything that, if something is wrong, they're going to go belly up. No ill effect whatsoever. And I'm not doing this so that, because I have a stake at it or anything like that. I have no affiliation with the company. It's just we're partnered with them because we're one of their preferred vendors for their product.
Yeah. Well, and I made the assumption at the beginning, thinking that that was your guys' product. And it wasn't until I started paying a little bit more attention. I was like, oh no, you guys are just a sponsored
Yeah,
site.
that is correct. Yeah, it's just we're just sponsored. We don't have any stake in the company or anything like that. Um, a lot of people think that we're making money hand over fist with the algae control, but we are not. We're just like any other vendor of the product.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Well, Senor, I've had you for almost an hour and a half, and I know it's your Saturday, and you already had a long day. I just want to say thank you so much for accepting my invitation. I want to say thank you for allowing me to come and film your store, especially because it was almost like a last minute thing, and I usually don't like doing that. I like to because then it feels like I'm kind of imposing myself on people. But if I know I'm going to be in an area, I'll reach out at least a week in advance. But that was kind of like a last spur of the moment kind of thing, and I said, you know what, let's see what happens. But fortunately, you agreed to it, and I want to thank you for that. And again, I want to congratulate you on a wonderful store that you have.
Thank you.
If I haven't said that already once.
No, no, and we're really thankful again that you came by and everything, and this goes out to anybody. If you're traveling from far and everything, and you want to come in and do video, or if you want to talk to us or whatever, if you're a YouTuber, Instagrammer, Facebook person or whatever, come by our store. We're always welcome. We'll welcome you in with open arms and answer your questions, and you can do all the filming that you like. Like I told one young man, that came in, and he just started taking a whole bunch of pictures and everything. And at the end, he goes, "Can I give you a link to my website?" And I go, "Okay, what for?" So that you can go in there and buy all the pictures that I've taken from your store. And I told him, I go, you know what? I really appreciate it. I go, but I have 1.5 million pictures of my store, my stock, and everything that I have. You know, as long as you don't use my pictures and claim them as yours, you know, or that it's your work or it's your stuff, we're okay. You know, you guys can take all the pictures you want, all the video that you want. The only thing we ask for is to just say we're staying at the Chlorophyll Corner, and that's it. You know.
Yeah, make sure you
Um,
get the name right, not like me. Make sure you get the
yeah,
city right, not like
yeah.
me. And
Re-
apparently, I just got the date wrong because everybody's saying it's Friday. I've totally, I'm telling you, I'm a scatterbrain. I don't even know where if I'm going or coming.
It
But
is
yeah, it is
Friday.
Friday.
It is Friday,
It's
but
just, yeah,
tomorrow is my Thursday, Sunday's my Friday, and then Monday's my day off.
I'm gonna stick to the excuse that I just came off a graveyard, so I still don't know exactly if it's day or night, and I'm gonna stick to it.
There you go.
No, but again, Joe, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate you the fact of, that you were willing to accept to join me tonight, and also anytime if you have anything that any announcements or anything that you want and you want to come on and you want to talk about it, any do you guys? I didn't ask you guys. Is this kind of the size of the store that you guys want to keep, or are you planning if the success continues to go to a bigger store or
If things move forward and continue moving forward the way they are, then yes, absolutely. We want to maybe double or triple the size of our store. Um, and then, you know, just if things just continue being the way they are and everything, you know, we'll probably keep it to the size of the store. We're not a huge store, we're only 1,000 square feet. But the thing about it is, we want to always make sure that we're giving the quality and the care, and not let it be so much that we're going to start, you know, loosening things up and not being the same if we grow. So
well,
that is the important part for us.
yeah, because even though like you guys have the ocean floor up there, it's so big, and I can imagine it's so hard to manage, especially what you guys are just talking about being able to retain employee retention.
Hmm.
You start going a little bit too big, and you know you walk into that store, and sometimes it's a hit or miss. Sometimes it'll look real nice, and sometimes it's like, yeah, they're having a hard time keeping up. But then again, that's a it's like a Walmart, but then
Well,
it's
you know, that was an ice rink, so you know, it's enormous. It's huge,
yeah.
you know, and I think, you know, uh, the thing about it is, this is the way I've always seen it. I've been my own boss for what, 28 years now, you know, and the way I see it is if I can go ahead and grasp it and I can, put my fingers around my hands, then I'm doing good. But the minute, you know, my fingers start slipping and then slipping, and you know, if I don't have any more, you know, contact with those fingers, then I'm in trouble. You know, so I want to make sure that I'm able to grasp it and hug it right. You know, and if we're doing that, then it's a recipe for success. But if I'm not able to do that, then, you know, I better start looking at, you know, retracting and doing what I was doing before. So if we do expand, yes, you know, we're gonna possibly look at, you know, maybe even having, you know, my son work for us, you know, full time as well. Um, you know, and then, you know, possibly, you know, one or two more employees, you know,
Trying to
so
keep
that
it
we
as family oriented as possible.
exactly, you know, just trying to keep it, you know, together, and you know, make sure that we have the staff that has the knowledge, but most importantly, that has the passion that we have for it. That's what we want. We want people with passion. You know, we get asked, you know, for hiring quite a bit. You know, we get quite a bit of resumes and everything. But to try to make that decision and to hire somebody at this point, it has to be somebody that truly shows that passion. And I'm sure there's somebody and there's people out there that do have that passion. So, you know, if you do have that passion and you do have that care for the industry and for people, send in your resumes through Instagram. You know, you never know, you may end up working for the Chlorophyll Corner.
Well, there's a very good example to follow that's already been laid out for you guys, and if you guys take advantage of social media, I mean, the co-op, you, the growth of that store has been documented from day one. I mean, you guys, I don't see how you guys would not be able to be something similar to that because of the quality of the stuff you guys are putting out there. So, even doing short videos of the daily maintenance and maybe a little talk here and there that you guys upload to your guys' page, that would go, I think, a long ways for the bringing that awareness to your store.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, definitely. And that's why, you know, we want to just kind of, you know, redo that site and make it a lot more user friendly, make it, you know, a lot more how can I say, accessible for people. I want to have, a full PDF care sheet on different things, your aquatic plants, CO2 use, your fish and the different species, pHs, all that kind of stuff for people just to be able to download it as well too. Again, just because there's so much in the internet that sometimes you go through one rabbit hole and you end up going to who knows where,
Yeah.
and I'd rather put in, information on there that people can download that's, backed up by, some of the big names in the industry. So that's what we're
All right.
looking forward to.
Well, with that said, I want to thank everybody that joined us tonight. Jeff for issuing those 20 memberships, and MC. Thank you so much for the super sticker. And there's a lot of things I need to improve on, but one of the biggest ones is trying to acknowledge people as they come into my stream. But the problem is I'm so spectic, that if I don't focus on the conversation, I get sidetracked, and it all goes to hell in a handbasket. So, but yeah, I want to thank everybody that was here. Thank you so much for coming out. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed this, and we'll see you guys soon. And with that said, you guys have a great rest of your weekend. Because I know I was trying to cut it short by a day, but enjoy the rest of the weekend, and we'll see you. We'll see you next week. So
Yeah,
you guys take
definitely.
care, and
On on behalf of me, my wife, and the Chlorophyll Corner, thank you so much once again for joining us here. And well, we look forward to seeing you again, Jorge, at the store.
well, I'm going to be up there for the 3rd of December for the Christmas party for
Okay,
SAA.
cool.
So, usually I get up there a little bit early, so I might swing by before going to the meeting. I don't
That
know
would be
what side
great.
of town it's going to be at, but
It'll be on your way to
okay,
there. So, yep.
yeah,
You can definitely do just a quick stop and say hi and then go on to the meeting. That'd be great.
I'll stop by to bring you guys coffee
Hey, there you go.
and a little chat, and then I'll be on my way.
We'll have the donuts.
All right. Well,
All
everybody
right,
else,
guys.
thank you guys, and
Have a
have
good
a
night.
great night.
Thank you.